Welcome everybody, and today we're taking a look at another Arrow Video 4K limited edition release, and it is 1973's Soylent Green. So this is directed by Richard Fleischer, who also did the likes of Tora Tora, 10 Rillington Place, and Between Heaven and Hell. And I've seen 20 other films in total from him outside of this one. So yeah, definitely one of the more prolific directors that I've seen films from, and also perhaps one of my favourites. So yeah, this is a dystopian thriller clocking in at 97 minutes long. Stars likes of Charlton Heston, who I've seen in 25 other films. Favourites from him would be the likes of Touch of Evil, True Lies, Dark City, that's the 1950s one, not the 1990s one. Planet of the Apes, and The Big Country. You also got Leigh Taylor-Young, who was in The Horseman, Looker, and Jagged Edge. Chuck Connors, who was in The Big Country as well as Naked Alibi, Kill Them All and Come Back Alone, and Tourist Trap. You've also got Joseph Cotton, who's not in a massive role in this, but his character does play a big role in it regardless. And I've seen him in 16 other films. Favourites from him will be like The Third Man, Gaslight, Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte, The Abominable Dr. Phoebes, or Phibes, and Twilight Starts Gleaming. Plus, you've also got Brock Peters, who was in Framed and the fourth and sixth Star Trek films. And finally, Edward G. Robinson in his final ever role. Seen him in 17 other films. Absolutely superb actor, but he was also particularly great in the likes of Double Indemnity, The Stranger, Key Largo, Scarlet Street, and The Seawolf. So in the year 2022, overcrowding, pollution, and resource depletion have reduced society's leaders to finding food for the teeming masses. The answer is Soylent Green. So this is a film that manages to balance its two genres perfectly, as it engrosses you into its hellish world where the majority are left to suffer in destitution while a tiny minority keep the best of everything from themselves, be it housing, clean water, fresh food, and even their own array of slaves, be they bodyguards or otherwise. And yeah, all the while they are corrupt and oppressive. Now that all sounds far-fetched, doesn't it? Quite frankly, not. But while that might have seemed the case back in the day that this was released, um, unfortunately, we are nonetheless coming ever so closer to such a situation, which makes this film, unfortunately, all the more relevant. It also has an excellent cast, with Edward G. Robinson in particular being superb in this. Now, he unfortunately died only a few months after finishing this film. In fact, this film was released after he passed away, and yeah, that makes his final scene in this all the more impactful because, um, spoilers. I don't know why I'm doing that. But yeah, spoilers are that he eventually goes to a euthanasia clinic because he says he's lived too long and doesn't want to exist anymore on this, quite frankly, god awful planet, given everything that's going on in the future. So yeah, and that makes that scene all the more impactful, knowing that that was the actual final scene that he filmed for the film as well. It's not like they did it out of order and that was the first or second scene that he filmed, but that was the actual last scene that he filmed for this film, and therefore is the last time he would ever appear on screen in a film as well. So yeah, it makes it highly impactful, as well as also knowing the behind the production aspects as well, in the fact that he didn't tell anyone that he was terminally ill. He didn't tell anyone at all into the to such an extreme that he was apparently never late, never missed a day in at work. He seems to have knew that this would be his final film, so therefore he put all of his all to it into it, all of his 30 plus years of acting prowess into this role, and it really shows. And yeah, he definitely has the most impactful performance in this film overall. But the rest of the cast is really good, especially Charlton Heston and Leigh Taylor-Young. They're both really good as well. It's also got a good score, brilliant world building. Can really feel that this is a world that would exist, and quite frankly, we're not a million miles off of it. Quite frankly, it doesn't shy away from its tough themes, such as inequality, poverty, exploitation of the common man, and such and such. So yeah. It's really well done in that regard. Also has effective production, especially which is you know really well works into that whole world building aspect as well, because if the production wasn't solid you wouldn't believe the world building, but if the world building wasn't solid then the production would just feel like it's a bit overly done. It's also got a good cinematography, it is well paced, the characterization is on point, and the twist is still one of the more impactful and best that I have seen, and it's quite frankly one that I rank alongside The Sixth Sense in particular, in terms of the twist ending. So yeah, absolutely superb film. 4.5 out of 5. Definitely one of my favourites from this period, and yeah, it's one of 3 films, I guess you could say, from Charlton Heston that you could kind of link together, with Planet of the Apes coming out 5 years prior to this, and then the Omega Man coming out 2 years prior to this. I'd say this is my favourite of the 3 in terms of the kind of dystopian kind of look at outlook of the world, and in terms of how humanity has basically destroyed this planet and basically wiped itself out in its own way. Now, obviously, there are still way too many people existing in the world in this film. There's 40 million people in New York alone, and apparently 7 billion in the world, which certainly accurate in terms of the basic numbers that would exist today, even if it's only a few years too late in that regard, considering we're closer to 8 billion nowadays than 7. But yeah, still really, really good film, and yeah, definitely one of my favourites from the cast and the director, and more besides. So yeah, let's get this booklet out of here if we can get it out. It's a little bit wedged in here. There we go. So this new artwork is done by Nathaniel Marsh, and I really rather quite like it. It depicts a riot scene in the film in particular, although Charlton Heston isn't holding that book in that scene. But yeah, those are called scoops, and they use them to basically scoop rioters up and tip them into the back of the bed. And they are rioting because there is a lack of food in abundance. So yeah, I can certainly see why they are doing that. Then we've got a really nice booklet with this release as well. And I'm really glad that they've done this to put Edward G. Robinson on the back there. And yeah, inside the booklet, you got cast and crew. Then you got Remember Tuesday is Soylent Green Day by Frank Collins. Then you got Death Rights and Culinary Ethnography, Capitalism and Cannibalism in Soylent Green by Alexandra Heller Nicholas, and then about the presentation as well. So that is a cast promo shoot there. And there's a scoop that I was just talking about there as well. So I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, although I might well have done with one of the titles of that in the context there for the booklet. But it is still an excellent film, even if you do know the twist, as far as I'm concerned, because there's just so much more going on there than just that twist. The twist is just basically the final nail in the coffin of humanity, and how far capitalism and certain companies will go to basically exploit the common man. And yeah, it's kind of the final like kind of leap towards them clearly being desperate enough to go to that kind of degree to really continue making profits, despite the fact that the world is quite literally ending. So yeah, this has been exclusively restored by Arrow Films, and is presented in its original aspect ratio of 2:39:1 with mono audio. The film is presented in 4K resolution in HDR10 and Dolby Vision. So the original 35mm camera negative was scanned in 4K 16-bit at Warner Brothers Motion Picture Imaging. The film was restored in 4K and color graded at Silver Salt. And the original mono soundtrack was restored by Bad Princess Productions. And all material sourced for this new master were made available by Warner Brothers QC Review. Warner Brothers, sorry, and QC Review was completed by Pixel Logic. So yeah, they've done a really, really good job with the restoration on this. I wouldn't say it's a massively essential film. At the end of the day, the themes and the acting and the general vibe of the film doesn't need a 4K restoration to get that across, but it still is a worth getting, because it is going to be the ultimate version of this film so far. So yeah, and whether or not there is going to be another restoration at some point, who knows? But I can't imagine it will look any better than this. So there's a disc as well with the new artwork on it. We also have the original artwork on the reverse with the tagline there. So it says, "It's the year 2022. People are still the same. They'll do anything to get what they need, and they need Soylent Green." So yeah. Now, I don't feel like this film could really have come about in any other period, to be honest, because the 70s was really the decade of cynicism. You've ever since when the late 60s concluded with the Manson murders, and then you had the Watergate scandal and the Vietnam War, and yeah, basically people were just cynical to all hell, especially in the likes of America. So I don't feel like this film could have come out 10 years later or 10 years prior. Even the book that this was based on from 1966 didn't include the twist that this film has. And that's probably because even in 1966 they couldn't have thought of that kind of thing really being something that would be a viable thing that people will believe. So yeah, I really feel like the 70s was the era of cynicism, and that's probably why the likes of the gritty 1970s cop thrillers and such work so well. Dirty Harry's, your French Connections, even the outfit that we recently looked at from our video. So yeah, I feel like this would never have worked had it been 10 years either side of where it was released. But yeah, we've got optional English subtitles as well for the deaf and hard of hearing on this release. Archive audio commentary with director Richard Fleischer and star Leigh Taylor-Young. Then brand new audio commentary with film historian Michael Brook and author Johnny Maines. Charlton Heston at the BFI, an archive on-stage interview with the star of Soylent Green. Richard Fleischer at the BFI, an archive on-stage interview with the director. Then a look at the world of Soylent Green, a vintage featurette. Then we've got MGM's tribute to Edward G. Robinson's 101st film, a vintage featurette. Then we've also got a theatrical trailer and image galleries as well to go alongside the new artwork and that booklet. So yeah, I do highly recommend this film if you haven't seen it already. It's definitely, like I said, one of my favourites from this period. I guess you could say it's sort of in the sci-fi realm of genre, especially back in 1973. It might well have seemed like science fiction, but I think that element has kind of dropped now, given we are in an era of climate change, pollution, overpopulation, and such and such. So yeah, that element might well have fallen away, but the dystopian thriller aspect certainly hasn't, and particularly the themes haven't as well. And at the end of the day, you've also got a really well produced, well acted, and impactful film on top of all of that anyway. So yeah, it's well worth seeing if you haven't already. But if you have seen Soylent Green before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.